Thousands right now marching towards our southern border, and we are seeing tonight a major shift in immigration rules from the White House. The president says anyone crossing our border illegally to gain asylum is on notice. Watch.
Asylum is a very special protection intended only for those fleeing government persecution based on race, religion, and other protected status. These caravans and illegal migrants are drawn to our country by Democrat-backed laws and left-wing judicial rulings. We're getting rulings that are so ridiculous, so bad, they're writing the laws. Can't do that.
This, as the Vice President of the United States tells me tonight in an exclusive interview, that the caravans are being funded and they are being orchestrated, he says, by leftist, radical, highly organized political groups. Here's my interview. We've got thousands of migrants heading towards our border, and the president is promising to send thousands of troops. Tell me why you think it is an assault.
Well, look, this caravan was organized by leftist groups in Honduras, financed in part by Venezuela. That all according to the president of Honduras, who told me those things personally.
I'm surprised Venezuela has any money.
And they were
to
sent,
do it.
That's right. And but they were sent north for the sole and exclusive reason of challenging the laws of the United States of America by coming into our country illegally. And the president's made it clear we're not going to allow it. President Trump has deployed 5,200 troops to support our Customs and Border Patrol, and of course today announced our plans to pursue changes in our asylum laws and the administration of asylum at our border that really puts America first. Look, Trish, you know we've got a crisis of illegal immigration. This caravan has captured, understandably, the concern of millions of Americans. But frankly, we have 1,000 people trying to come into our country illegally every day, and yet Democrats in Washington, D.C. Refuse to fund construction for the wall. They refuse to close the loopholes that human traffickers use to entice people to come into this country illegally.
I guess the question, though, is what is different about this particular time? You're saying that this is more organized than previous groups that we've seen try and come to our border.
Well, we've seen organized caravans in the past. They oftentimes come in the spring, but
now in the fall.
This group was organized, whatever the intention. We know it was by leftist groups with human traffickers taking advantage of many vulnerable people. We also know from law enforcement authorities in the region that there are individuals with serious criminal histories. There's also people from countries far outside Central America, including the Middle East and Africa, that are in the caravan that is moving north. The president and I have been very plain about that. That's why the president has taken decisive action. We've sent a very clear message to people in this caravan to turn around, return to your homes. You will not be allowed to come into the United States illegally. But ultimately what we have to do is...
We're just trying to seek asylum. And many members of the left say, look, we've always allowed people to seek asylum.
Well, we do, but as the president discussed today, we're going to be making changes so that people that are making legitimate claims for asylum to come into this country are processed in an orderly and in a timely way. But because the reality is what human traffickers do in Central America is literally take cash from impoverished families in many cases, and then take them up a long and dangerous journey up north to our southern border, and literally coach them on the things to say to make an asylum application and claim, knowing that once they're in the United States with our catch and release program and the backlog of cases for asylum application in this country, that people have the opportunity to essentially disappear into the United States. That's a broken system, Trish. The president's been very candid about it. We're absolutely determined to fix this broken immigration system, to secure our border. And it begins with building a wall. It begins with supporting our Customs and Border Patrol. But immediately thereafter, it's about closing the loopholes that human traffickers use to entice people to make the dangerous journey north. And we need partners in the Congress of the United States and in office around the country to support us in that. that.
Yeah, well, good luck on that, right? I mean, you are seeing a lot of resistance. I've had many Democrats on the show that say, this is not even a story. I don't know why you guys are covering it, to which I point to the pictures again. Thousands of people marching through Mexico,
right,
breaking through borders, whether it be Guatemala or Honduras, is a story. But what do you say to them when they say this is racist, this is akin to Nazi Germany, that you're trying to somehow stereotype all these people as criminals, etc.? What's your response?
Well, any allusion to evil historical figures in the past is shameful and should be rejected out of hand. Look, as the president said many times, a country without borders is not a country. And the American people are very concerned, not just about this caravan, but about the fact that we have a broken immigration system and that we haven't secured our borders. And they understand that. I mean, that's why I think you see, even though the historical trends for midterm elections are challenging for the party in the White House, I think that's why you see our candidates doing so well in House and Senate races across the country, because the American people want to see us continue to deliver the results on our national defense, on our economy, on our courts, but also, unquestionably, I hear people saying they want a Congress that will work with this president to end the crisis of illegal immigration.
You think about it, Mr. Vice President, and you look back historically, the Democrats weren't always like this. In other words, this was at one point in time something that they believed in, a stronger border. So why the change?
Well, you'd sure have to ask them. I think in many ways today's Democratic Party is much more liberal than the Democratic Party of 20 years ago. I mean, you know that even early in his career, President Obama, called for secure borders, said we can't have people just coming into our country illegally, and yet, really, theirs is a party of open borders. President Trump has made that very clear. I mean, the Republican Party is the one party at the national level that is committed to securing our borders, fixing a broken immigration system, building a wall, and upholding and enforcing our laws.
Yet somehow that's racist.
The Democratic Party is about open borders, it's about continuing the policies that have resulted in a crisis that yes, it's affecting communities all across the country. Not only individuals coming into our country, but we know dangerous individuals come into this country. We've been working hard to remove criminal illegal aliens from our streets at record numbers. MS-13 gang members taken into custody, put behind bars. But beyond that, the avalanche of drugs that comes into our country, President Trump, in the campaign 2 years ago, tapped into a great desire of the American people to secure our borders in a way that puts the safety, security, and the prosperity of America first. And while we've been making progress in that regard, we need a Congress, we need leaders at every level that'll stand with us to accomplish all that. So
do you think that the left is effectively hurting themselves in this endeavor? In other words, by creating this wedge issue, by saying that you guys are being the bad ones by not allowing people in, by not having open borders, are they out of touch with how your average American thinks? And to that end, what does it mean for midterms?
I believe today's liberal Democrats are out of touch with the majority of the American people, who know that a nation without borders is not a nation, who also know that the flow of illegal immigration, the flow of drugs into our country through our southern border, has got to be brought to an end, and that we can bring it to an end. And make no mistake about it, the other thing the American people know is that many of the people, even in this caravan, that are coming up north through Mexico today are simply being exploited by human traffickers and criminal organizations that seize on their frustrations and their challenges in their life. They have them deliver to them thousands of dollars in American cash, and then they have them take the long and dangerous journey up with the hope of entering our country illegally.
There's a law of incentives, right, in economics. So can you destroy some of the incentives by making it very clear they can't come?
That's why we have to close the loopholes, because human traffickers educate people. I heard this when I've met with the leaders of what we call our Northern Triangle countries, El Salvador and Honduras and Guatemala. They've explained to me the human traffickers literally advertise in those countries to entice people to pay with American cash to pay for the opportunity to come north. And frankly, what happens to families on the way? You know, the president of Guatemala told me this caravan alone that he was sending buses out to pick up elderly, vulnerable families, small children that were simply being left by the side of the road by the organizers of the caravan. These organizers have no regard for human life. And this flow of illegal immigration at the hands of human traffickers often ends in tragedy. It often ends in abuse. People that come into our country.
What about Mexico? I mean, we give all of these countries a lot of money in aid. Are they doing their part?
Trish, I think the president and I feel that Mexico is doing more than ever before. But you raise a point that is not lost on the American people, and that is if people are fleeing deprivation or persecution or hardship in Central American countries, they have an obligation to apply for asylum in the first safe country. That country is Mexico. And we're pleased that nearly 2,000 people in the caravan have applied for and been granted asylum in Mexico. Mexico is also working to make work permits available for people. But the fact that they are passing through a safe country in Mexico for the purpose of coming to our border really lays bare the objective here, and that is that the organizers of this caravan in Honduras, leftist organizations, pulled these thousands of people together for the sole and exclusive purpose of trying to enter our country illegally, and President Trump has made it clear we will not allow it.